Most people think the harshest punishment is execution. One moment, and it's over. But what if the real punishment is being forced to stay alive, knowing nothing will ever change? No release date, no second chances, no future outside concrete walls. Tonight, we're breaking down the sentence many believe is far worse than death, and why the man who received it may never experience a single moment of peace again. On September 30, 2021, a courtroom in London went completely silent. A former police officer stood waiting as the judge delivered a sentence that almost no one ever receives. Not decades, not life with parole, but something far more final. A whole life order. In the British justice system, this sentence means one thing and one thing only. Prison until death. No parole hearings, no sentence reviews, no possibility of release, no matter how much time passes or how old the prisoner becomes. When the judge spoke those words, the door didn't just close behind him, it disappeared entirely. There would be no countdown, no milestone years, no hope of ever walking free again. And while many people believed this was justice, others argued something different. That keeping him alive wasn't mercy at all, because where he was sent next would turn that sentence into something much darker. It all began on a quiet evening in March 2021. A 33-year-old woman was walking home through South London after visiting a friend. She was on the phone, staying alert, doing everything people are told to do to stay safe. She never made it home. The man who stopped her wasn't responding to a call or on active duty. But he had a badge. He had handcuffs. And during a nationwide lockdown, that was all he needed. He approached her calmly, presented himself as an officer, and told her she was violating restrictions. Witnesses saw it happen. A woman being detained. A man who looked exactly like the law. Nothing seemed wrong. That was the trap. She trusted the uniform. She complied. And in that moment, authority became a weapon. What followed wasn't chaos or impulse. It was a plan already in motion. And the evidence of that plan would surface sooner than anyone expected. At first, there were no screams, no clear witnesses, no immediate answers. Just a woman who vanished somewhere between a friend's house and home. But London has eyes everywhere, and those eyes never blink. Investigators began pulling CCTV footage from the area where she was last seen. Hours of video, street by street, frame by frame, and then they spotted it, a white rental car moving through the area at the exact moment she disappeared. That single detail changed everything. Britain's road network tracks vehicles automatically. Cameras logged the car's movements as it left London and headed miles away, deep into the countryside. The route wasn't random. It was direct, purposeful. When police traced the rental, the name attached to it raised immediate alarms. Not a stranger, not a drifter, a serving police officer. In less than a week, the case went from a missing person search to something far more disturbing. Because technology hadn't just spotted him, it had followed him every step of the way. And when officers finally confronted him, he didn't break. Instead, he tried to rewrite the story entirely. Faced with overwhelming evidence, he didn't confess. He didn't show remorse. Instead, he told investigators a story that sounded almost cinematic. He claimed he was being controlled. According to him, a violent criminal group had targeted his family. They had threatened him, watched him, and forced him to deliver women on their behalf. He wasn't the villain, he said. He was a man trapped with no way out. It was a last-ditch attempt to shift blame onto shadows. Investigators pulled apart every piece of that claim. Phone records, messages, finances, movements, any sign of pressure or coercion. They found nothing. No gang, no threats, no leverage. The story collapsed under its own weight. And what remained was far worse. A man who didn't just plan a crime, but tried to escape responsibility by inventing monsters that didn't exist. That lie didn't buy him sympathy. It did the opposite. It showed exactly who he was. And once that became clear, the punishment waiting for him would be unlike almost anything the country had seen. In the UK, a whole life order is almost never used. It's reserved for the worst crimes imaginable. The kind that leave entire communities shaken. So when this sentence was handed down, many people asked the same question. How does one crime justify the maximum punishment? The answer wasn't the number of victims. It was the abuse of power. He wasn't just another criminal. He was a police officer who used state-issued authority to deceive someone into compliance. A badge, handcuffs, the trust that comes with them, all turned into tools of control. The judge made it clear. This wasn't only about what he did to one person. It was about what he did to the bond between the public and the police. The trust that allows people to feel safe when an officer approaches them. That trust was shattered in a single night. And because of that, the court ruled there could be no second chances. No rehabilitation pathway, no future review. But the sentence on paper was only the beginning. Because the place where he would spend the rest of his life would ensure that punishment never faded with time. Prison isn't a level playing field. It runs on an unspoken hierarchy, and everyone inside understands it from day one. At the very bottom sit people convicted of crimes against women and children. They're targeted, isolated, and attacked whenever the opportunity appears. Violence toward them isn't random. It's expected. Former police officers rank even lower. Inside, the badge doesn't disappear. It becomes a mark, a reminder of who you once had power over. And inmates don't forget. Now combine both. A former officer who used his authority to abduct and harm a woman occupies the lowest position possible. There is no category beneath him. That's why he can't mix with the general population. He lives in protective custody. Segregated, watched, moved on strict schedules, not for comfort, but to keep him alive. He doesn't eat with other prisoners. He doesn't walk the main yard. Every movement is calculated to prevent retaliation. His world has shrunk to concrete walls, locked doors, and long stretches of silence. And the system may protect his body, but it can't protect him from what comes next. Most prisoners count down. Days, months, years, even long sentences come with a number at the end. He has none. A whole life order doesn't just remove freedom, it removes the future. There's no release date to work toward, no parole board to convince, no version of life waiting on the other side. Every day is identical. Wake up, eat, wait, sleep, repeat. The routine never changes, and neither does the destination. With nothing to aim for, time starts to lose meaning. Weeks blur together. Years stop feeling different from months. There's no progress, only endurance. Studies on long-term isolation show that when there's no endpoint, identity begins to erode. You stop becoming anything. You just exist. Execution ends consciousness in a moment. This doesn't. This stretches awareness across decades, forcing a person to experience every single day knowing this is all there will ever be. He can't earn his way out. He can't prove he's changed. The system isn't interested in redemption, only containment. And when he tried, just once, to argue for mercy, the answer was final. In 2022, he made one last attempt to change his future. He didn't claim innocence. He didn't dispute the evidence. He accepted what he had done. His argument was simple, that the sentence was too extreme. He claimed the harshest punishment should be reserved for mass killers and terrorists, not someone with a single victim. It was his final doorway to the possibility, however distant, of release. The court didn't hesitate. Judges ruled that this wasn't an ordinary crime. It was a betrayal of public trust so severe it stood alongside the worst offenses in modern British history. The uniform mattered, the authority mattered, and the damage went far beyond one life. The appeal was rejected, permanently. Outside the courtroom, the consequences continued to ripple. Public trust in policing fractured. Protests erupted. Reviews were launched. Leadership fell. An entire institution was forced to confront failures that could no longer be ignored. Reforms were announced. Policies rewritten. Years passed. And through it all, nothing changed for him. He returned to the same cell. The same routine. The same futureless existence. The world moved forward. He never will. Some punishments end in a moment. A switch flipped. A sentence carried out. And then it's over. This one doesn't. There's no final day circled on a calendar. No moment where the debt is considered paid. Just years stacked on top of each other inside the same walls, under the same ceiling, with the same knowledge waiting every morning. He will never walk free. Never rebuild a life. Never outrun what he did. The world will keep moving forward. People will forget headlines. Institutions will change. Streets will fill again. And he will still be there. So the question isn't whether justice was served. It's whether being forced to live like this, day after day, with no end in sight, is a punishment harsher than death itself. That answer depends on how you define mercy.